Welcome back to our second episode of Movies with Reid. Today we'll be talking about the Shawshank Redemption. My name is Kyle Spear. I'm a senior, if you don't know.
I'm Joseph Ford. I'm a senior.
And I'm Tom Reid. I'm teacher of media literacy here at Swampscott High School.
And today we're talking about Shawshank Redemption, as Kyle said. It's a prison film about this man, Andy Dufresne, who was falsely accused of murdering his wife and the man she was cheating on him with. And it just goes about his time in prison throughout the movie. And Mr. Reid will be able to give you a more depth and analysis of the film and more details about it and when it was made and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, it was made in 1994, and one interesting thing is that when it came out, it wasn't really a hit. It had a strange name, Shawshank Redemption. You know, what is that? And it only gradually became popular. Video stores, word of mouth, and now up to the point where it's the #1 ranked film on IMDb by all the users. So one interesting question, we'll probably address it slightly today, and I talk about it with my students, is why is this, of all the films ever made, the #1 ranked film?
Yeah, and Joseph made a really good point even before we started the show that two good movies came out in the same year that this one did that kind of like overshadowed the light a little bit. It was Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. So we can jump right into our first clip here that kind of describes the overall plot and gives us really good background.
Yeah, it shows the whole setting of the prison and how many people are there. You get like a real sense of what's going on in there.
Yeah, it really opens up and introduces the movie.
Andy came to Shawshank Prison in early 1947 for murdering his wife and the fella she was banging. On the outside, he'd been vice president of a large Portland bank. Good work for a man as young as he was.
Hey, Red.
So the man narrating that clip that you saw even running, his name is Reid. He's kind of like the man that like kind of hooks everyone up with all the goods that they need in the prison, and he supplies Andy with. I know he gave him the poster of the girl that he had in his he hung up in his cell. I wasn't sure, was there something else that he
Yeah,
it was
the rock pickaxe.
yeah, because he had like the collection of like the sculptures in his cell. Yeah, but that clip kind of like showed Andy's like first real introduction with the prison and kind of how it was set up. It said that he was a successful bank owner in the Portland area, and it kind of showed that he always like didn't really have a life of crime. So yeah, that was basically that introduction to the clip. I don't know if you guys had any overall reactions to the film that you wanted to talk about.
For this clip, it was pretty cool seeing how all the prisoners came to see the new batch, and it's not in the clip, but later on, like a minute or two after, all the prisoners are banging on the fencing, screaming like fish, fish, like kind of going fishing in a way for like the new prisoners to just like, because they don't really know what's going on there yet, and just trying to make things worse for them in a way.
Yeah.
And you could hear, one of the things my students really like about this is that the voiceover by Morgan Freeman as the character of Reid. He sort of plays, in a way, he's the moral center of the whole story, and the evolution at the end. You could talk about who's redeemed, because Reid is kind of this cynical lifer, but things change as he goes along and he gets influenced by Andy.
I think Andy really made a big impact on Reid, just as much as Reid made an impact on him.
Yeah, even like off the topic of this movie, like you said with Morgan Freeman's voice, I know that like even myself, like when Morgan Freeman's like narrating, like all like even like the documentaries, he has like a really like soothing voice.
Yeah, I saw this thing on Facebook recently that said, "Who would you want to narrate the story of your life if you couldn't have Morgan Freeman?" So it was like the default best choice.
Yeah, but overall, like with like even like a general sense of this movie, like, I really feel that like even Morgan Freeman paints like a really like calm, like, so it's sort of like he's like painting like a painting or like a sculpture. He's kind of setting up like this whole general sense of the movie.
Yeah. And that leads me to one thing I always like to say about this. There are some students in the school, I'm sure not you guys, but some people who don't really think they enjoy reading. They
Yeah.
enjoy English class. I don't know why anyone would think that. But if you don't think you like writing, but you love this film, there's a little fallacy there, because this film, I think, is great in particular because of the writing. Stephen King, writing in his non-horror mode. I know most people know him for all of his supernatural films and books, but he wrote this as a long short story called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. So if you love this film, you love great writing.
Yeah, I agree. So the next clip we have here is on the roof, and it's it's on the roof of the prison is where it takes place, and it's one of the more impactful clips of the movie. So we can show it
really
here.
gives you a good idea of Andy's like power and like abilities in the prison.
Yeah,
his brains.
his intellectual knowledge.
Here, you figure the tax wrong? You gotta pay him out of your own pocket. I tell you, Uncle Sam, he puts his hand in your shirt and squeezes your tit till it's purple. The man never gets a break, that's the truth. You said rich get himself killed.
Keep talking. No.
Some brother. Shit.
Hey! Mr. Hadley, do you trust your wife?
Oh, that's funny.
So this clip in particular, I think, is really good because it kind of shows how Andy is different from all the prisoners in the prison, because he's not really afraid. I feel like he's kind of more smarter or more intellectual, and he realizes that he's different, and he's not afraid to go up to the guards and kind of speak his mind. Yeah, that's kind of what I got from this clip.
I think the way I thought it was funny how when he approached Hadley, he started by saying like, "Do you trust your wife?" instead of, "I can help you, like pay for that and like get it done."
Which almost gets him thrown off the roof.
Hadley goes crazy in a second after that, and just kind of showed all the other prisoners like Reid and Hayward and all them. They were just like, "Andy, what are you doing?" But they couldn't even stop him because it was too late at that point. But
he has this way he can save
Yeah.
Hadley money, and that's very important to the plot, because it leads to the whole subplot in which the warden is using Andy's financial knowledge to do this corrupt scheme where the warden's getting rich and no one knows, at least at first.
I feel like this clip also kind of symbolizes Hadley's kind of changing relationship with Andy, because he kind of realizes, like as I said earlier, that Andy's not one of the normal prisoners, and that they kind of come across like a sort of like generational prisoner, as I should say, someone that's not afraid to stand up and speak their opinion and do what they want to do. So I think that's really impactful, and it kind of this clip in particular kind of like changes the sense of the movie, because this is Andy's like first time really like speaking up and talking to Hadley as a friend, and not only just a superior like being or force that all the other prisoners think that he is.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned how it shows Andy as different, because one thing I think is great about it is it shows the characters' differences, but it also shows them coming together. It shows their common humanity as they bond over time. So it does both, which I think a lot of great art does. It shows individual and communal kinds of characteristics.
Yeah, and it's important to note that, like as I said with the relationship with Hadley and Andy, that as kind of future like goes along in the story in the movie, as in the plot, Hadley, the guard, or Andy is kind of being like sexually abused by this group called the Sisters, who is led by one of the I forget.
Boggs.
Yeah, Boggs. That's it. And then kind of as the movie goes along and Andy starts to write off these tax forms for Hadley and the other guards, Hadley kind of starts
keeps like a closer eye on Boggs.
Yeah, he keeps a closer eye on Boggs and starts to really note that like what Andy's doing, and starts to really connect with Andy.
Yeah, and then eventually, after one time the Sisters get Andy really bad, Hadley like beats up Boggs so bad he cripples him and leaves him in a wheelchair for life.
He had to leave the prison.
Yeah, he had to leave to go to.
They had to transfer him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one of the subtle points I really like about the characters of the Sisters. There's a conversation where Andy is being told, he's being warned, these guys are going to come after you, they're going to abuse you. And Andy says to Reid, would it help if I told him I wasn't homosexual? And Reid says, they aren't either, you have to be human to be that. So he's taking care, the writer, that this is not an anti-gay kind of thing. These guys are just nuts.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. It's not like a thing that gay people would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like crazy and in prison. Nothing else.
And violent.
So in the third clip we have here, it's Andy sort of connecting with what was the
The third, Brooks is the
yeah,
next
Brooks. It was Brooks. So as Andy kind of started to write off these tax forms for the guards and like all of the guards basically, including Hadley, he was transferred into the library, with the prison library, where he would kind of sit down and have these meetings one-on-one with the guards. And Brooks was sort of he was the librarian and ended up getting parole after I think 50 years was it in the prison.
Yeah.
So this last clip is kind of talking about society and how Brooks is kind of feeling like he's not really adjusting to the new world. And
Yeah, he's been institutionalized.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
all he knows.
He hasn't been out of the prison for 50 years.
Yeah, so we can show this last clip here.
Dear fellas, I can't believe how fast things move on the outside. I saw an automobile once when I was a kid, but now they're everywhere. The world went and got itself in a big damn hurry.
So this clip is really impactful to me. This is probably one of my favorite scenes, and I know even when I was watching Shawshank in your class, Brooks was one of the characters that people like most sympathize for.
Yeah, and you know what? That really moved me when that happened, and it happens every time, because as I get older, obviously, I for whatever reason, I happen to get more interested in the concept of ageism as time goes on. But you know who's never, and once in a while I experience a little ageism out in the world, but you know who's never that way to me is my students. They're fine with me. They don't worry that I'm this many years older than some teachers. And they love Brooks, and I think it's also because he was a great actor, James Whitmore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in fact, at the time the film was made, he was probably the most accomplished actor. But I think it's great that they have so many feelings for him.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Afterwards, like what happens after this scene, I'm not
You
gonna
can't live in the outside world.
Yeah, but it's pretty crazy how he said he saw like an automobile once when he was a kid, and now they're all over the place.
That's right.
The world what he said was true. Like the world went and got itself in a hurry.
Yeah. Because when he was a kid, it was the time period where there was some cars were a new thing, but there's still a lot of horse and carriage.
Yeah, this clip was like really sad to me. Like even as you said, he couldn't handle the pressure of the outside world, and it all kind of moved past him as he was in prison. And
But I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. I
We
was
just
gonna
got the 1 minute sign.
No, I was just gonna say that like as he's narrating it and kind of talking about it, it's kind of he's just like the part that stands out to me really in this clip is when he's kind of like he's almost like walking across the street and almost hit by a car, and he says like the guy says, "Sorry, old time, watch out, old timer, you're gonna get hit by a car, you're gonna get yourself killed." So that I just really like feel like as I said, I sympathize for Brooks because I really feel bad that the world kind of flashing by, and he didn't get to live out kind of his life. He didn't get to relive his dreams. He didn't get to do anything.
Does it say in the movie what Brooks was in there for?
No, I mean, they're all pretty hardened criminals, so it must have been something serious.
Yeah.
Most of them view it as like a mistake they made when they were just kids, or teenagers, whatever. So, but we should maybe end on a positive note. I just want to say that one of the great things about the film, I don't want to do too much of a spoiler, but it really shows, especially through Andy and Red's relationship, that if you have faith and long-term planning, long-term persistence, making a plan for thinking years ahead, you can get where you need to go. Because basically that's what Andy and Red do.
Yeah, and another big point of the movie was about hope. Andy was super big on hope, and Red said, "You can't have that here. Like, there's no hope. You just you gotta deal with it." But Andy was like, "No, that's how you get through it. Just gotta hope. That's how you get to know on the outside." And he said, I remember the scene where him and Red and Andy were talking. Then he said, like, "Is that what Brooks did?" And then Red just got up and left.
Yeah, because he knew he was out-argued. Yeah, and there's so much about hope. In fact, the last line of the film is hope.
Really?
Yeah, the last line is "I hope," and it's a great testament to hope. I mean, that almost all the films that we watch in media literacy class, they have great stories. They recognize the darker, the tough sides of life, but they come out on the side of a positive message like this one.
Yeah. So as Mr. Reid said, we don't want to spoil too much here because it's honestly like one of the most developed stories that you'll ever see in a movie. Is I personally that I've ever seen in a movie. So we suggest that you just go out and watch the film. It's you'll really enjoy it, I'm sure. It's a very few people have ever criticized the film. So
And other films by based on writing by Stephen King, like The Green Mile or Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Recommend those too.
Yeah. So that's about all we have today.
Thanks
Thank you for
to you
tuning
guys.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
doing
you,
this
Mr.
show.
Thanks
It's
for
really
coming,
great.
Mr. Reid.
Awesome.
Thanks to Mr. Lett and the crew.
Yeah. That's all we have. Thank you guys.